Hi, hi, hi. Friday again. I know we've been sort of playing about with our days a bit, mainly down to me, I'm afraid, changing things around. But it's Friday, um, and it's a mad world we're living in, and we're going to have a good discussion today. How are you doing, Chantelle?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you. And so good to be back with you. I always enjoy our talks. And yes, don't worry, it's not only you. We've also had some stuff that is kind of clashed here and there, but good to be back whenever we can have these talks. So welcome everybody, whoever's here. I can't really see, but it's so good to be here. And also, most definitely looking forward to our conversation today. I think it's going to be a goodie.
It's going to be a goodie. So, welcome. Hi, Crystal. Thanks for being here. As people join, yeah, happy Friday, Crystal. Thanks for being here. Let us know where you're from. And we're going to have a really fun conversation today, which links into a lot, Chantelle, of what we've been talking about over the last few years, and a lot of our listeners have been talking about being careful what we wish for. And just to, I know we've got quite a few new listeners, and the times change, so different people from different parts of the globe can join us. But when Chanti and I do these chats, we really are just having a good girlfriend chat and talking through and not pretending we've got all the answers and sort of saying, what about here? Hi, Utah. What about this? What about that? Because if we keep in that questioning state of mind, suddenly those light bulb moments come, don't they, Chanti?
Absolutely. Absolutely, they really do. They really do, and I think you know what you said was spot on. And when you're in a good state of mind, that I think is key. But I think there's also a difference between manifesting and wishing,
Oh, yeah.
because energy is so energy doesn't care.
Mm.
It's like a tree. There's a tree outside. The tree is not going to decide who it does and doesn't give shade to, right? It's there. Good, bad, pretty, ugly, rich, poor, whatever can go and take shade under the tree, right? It's the same thing with energy. Energy is there. So it is very manipulatable as well as what we've seen here. But also by the same token, sorry, excuse me, guys. Um, when we're aligned with Source or with God, we don't need to manipulate anything because that means we've done the shadow work, we've done what we need to, right? And we're in a enlightened consciousness. And when you're in enlightened consciousness, you don't want to hurt, you don't want to harm, you don't want to beat up, you don't want to shoot, kill, go to war with, whatever. We seek other ways of dealing with conflict, right? So automatically, you don't need to wish for something and bend the energy in order to get it. It's as powerful, maybe more powerful in the short term, right?
Yeah.
But but when you get it, it might arrive at your doorstep with an impact. But then, we're looking at wishing and wishes coming true. It's a form of manifestation. We're manifesting all the time anyway. So let's not say manifestation is the devil's work. It's not. We're creating and manifesting all the time. But what we haven't realized is that we unconsciously manifesting. We're wishing for things, and oftentimes we don't get our wish because what we're wishing for is so out of reach to us, right? And we believe it's so out of reach many times. But oftentimes we want that. We have such desire, and I'm going to say that's more like desire. We have such a desire for something that somehow, consciously or unconsciously, we bring it into reality. Either way, you're bringing things into reality. The question is, are you bringing into reality what you want, what you truly want, and what is of the highest, and what is for the highest good of all involved? It doesn't mean people don't necessarily get hurt, but it's done with an enlightened consciousness. If you're in a divorce, You can't help your partner not getting hurt, but you can do it gently. You can do it kindly. You don't have to be acrimonious, for example. See what I'm saying? So it's the intention and it's the way we carry it out and the thoughts and the emotions and the energy we're using to drive what we want. That is so important. And when we're wishing for something that is not coming true in the way that we want it, right? Maybe sometimes it's spot on, other times it's half, other times it's gone, you know, but that's because we haven't got a focused intention and we haven't aligned ourselves with peace, because through a peaceful place, we attract, we magnetize. We don't have to pull, if that makes sense.
There's a couple of really good points in there. I mean, first and foremost, we sort of see as people go through their sort of, let's call it spiritual journey, it's like when you're learning any new skills, you sort of go through different levels of understanding. And sometimes you have to simplify things when you're first starting off to get people up to certain levels, etc., in the teachings. So a classic example for that is, people often sort of, we hear this term the whole time, the universe has always got your back, the universe always wants the best for you. But as you say, the universe, however you want to describe it, is neutral. It's there, and all these possibilities are out there in the field, however you want to envision it. I envision it like sort of apples on the tree. They're all there. Which one are you going to put your attention on and climb up and pick?
Right.
That's why I wanted to really sort of have a discussion with you and everyone in the chat about, I'm seeing a lot at the moment, and I have done over the last few years, about people sort of seeing things announced. Let's say the collapse of the economic system and everyone going, yay, bring it on, bring it on. And I just want to put it out there to say we've got to be really careful where we are putting our attention and what we are wishing for if we don't really understand the implications. So let's take as an example the financial system, and everyone's saying, yes, 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 the old system's got to crash for the new system to come in. Now, the way I look at it is very different to that. That's one option of how a new system could come in, that the old one crashes. But we also hear lots of other great philosophers talking about how you don't need to worry about destroying the old. You just go and create a new, and by sort of osmosis, people will drift across when it's better. So the idea is there's never just one way of doing it. And if we're being told there's just one way of doing it, to be really cautious about who's feeding you that information, and are some of the things that the awake or truthful or enlightened or spiritual, whichever you want to call about it, communities, because there's lots of them, actually being manipulated to focus and bring into energetic being things that are not in our best interest necessarily. So give us your thoughts on that one, and ask any questions in the chat as well.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys as well. Sorry. Yes, I do believe, in my opinion, and I've believed this for as long as I can remember. And it's in recent years that people are starting to say the same sort of thing that my grandmother and my mother have been talking to me about since I was yay high, is that we are creators. And we have the power to create what we want. Now, does that mean we just get to create wildly? No. Let's remember that prior to coming to Earth, your soul and your spirit has a sacred contract to come here and experience certain things, right? So you come to Earth in this body, this meat suit, and you forget what you're here to do. But you meet people, you do things, etc., etc. We are creative beings, right? We as human beings are creative beings. And currently we are in the third dimension, which is the dimension of free will and choice. So, and let's say this is Earth, okay? So within Earth, within the realm of Earth, there are many, many, many different frequencies available to us. We are only allowed to work with X amount, but there are so many, it's almost infinite. So we are given free will and choice to come here and do what Earth requires, right? In a neutral space, right? So when we realize that, and human beings have something called a soul or consciousness, which enables us to grow, expand, learn, understand our shadow self, etc., etc. It's like we little seeds that are growing into trees. We aren't just dead branches that are being used to hit. We can produce and create, and we are masterful creators. That's what we are. We forget that because when you speak to anyone who's been in the arcane for a significant amount of time and studied this stuff, they will tell you these guys that are currently ruling this planet, and we're not going into who that is, that's a topic for a different day, hate us. They hate us. They use us for our consciousness because they don't have it. Their frequency is too low vibrating to get a body, right? Or to reincarnate or whatever, get a body. So what they do is they then obviously loosh off humans, right? It's our consciousness is like their chocolate. And our fear is like a double cream, double thick chocolate milkshake for them, right? So that's what they love. And the more fear they create, they farm us like we farm cattle. They are farming us. That is why they've kept us so disconnected from the essence of who we are through technology and blah, 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 all sorts of other things again. But my point is that through things like, if you guys haven't watched my series with Jessie, I did part 1 and 2, Decoding the Simpsons, that we did on Wednesday. She explains it, how they do it. And I'm just going to give you a quick thing here, because this talks about how they create against what is natural, right? And this is what we're pretty much up against. So the system takes kids in. They have the Looking Glass Project, Star Wars Now, and the Voice of God Project, where they take gifted kids and they put them into these programs where they are now able to foresee and foretell the future. So they come in 3 stages. The one group of kids, or the one kid, will talk about now, the other one will talk about the future, and the other one talks about the consequences. So what these people do is they then give you the best possible, they create from that the best possible route as well as outcome. They place things in that way, just by the way. But now, so these kids are giving them biofeedback all the time. So now what these guys have done is they've now taken that biofeedback from the kids and they've sold it to the movie producers, like The Simpsons, who now create cartoons from it. But now that's the next step in which, my opinion, this is Chantelle speaking, right? I'm saying energy goes where attention, or energy flows where attention goes. So in other words, you're going to grow. Now, when you're having 10 million people through a cartoon like The Simpsons, for example, right? Watching Donald Trump being made president 10 years before it happens. What happens then? Everyone goes, what? Donald Trump is president? Donald Trump is president? Is Donald Trump What happens is the energy of that then creates the event to occur. And that's how they've worked with things like The Simpsons and many other things. Guys, you must see, if you haven't watched please go and watch those interviews, because there's lots of other things like smartphones, like all sorts of things they talk about that aren't necessarily significant events. But this is how these guys manifest through us, because our emotions manifest where the most powerful energy is going. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. Remember, energy is neutral.
Exactly.
So they're feeding us that which they want. And through our emotions and our thoughts and therefore actions, they are creating exactly what they want through us. And if we can change that, we have won this war. It's that simple. No more chopping heads off of demons or whatever. Please just stop the tide. That's all.
Okay, so I want to bring something up. Let's take an example that we'll all have heard from, and it's really funny. You can see Coco's here is joining in with the conversation. So if I suddenly get cut off, you know, Coco's trodden on my computer. In all seriousness, okay, let's take an example that we're all aware of. Something like the financial system crashes. So most people in alternative media, we've got the whole discussion around cryptos, and we've got the central bank digital currencies. And then we've got people that are fighting for private versions of that, basically. And I will say, and I'm not saying I'm right, but my opinion from the whole time has been anyone who seriously believes blockchain and crypto aren't hackable. If a man can create it, a man can hack it. You know,
of course.
I hear people
Nothing's unhackable.
Things are completely unhackable, and you're just like, you know, those cartoons where you've got bang yourself against brick wall. But anyway, doesn't mean I'm right. Be careful with the thoughts. But there's lots of things going around at the moment, and they have been for the last few years, about various banks crashing all over the world, and people saying, yay, bring it on. And I'm sitting there sort of looking at this thinking, well, okay, who's feeding this information to have so much? We talk about mainstream media all coming out with the same story at the same time. And we're on YouTube and Facebook, so we won't say too many of those stories at the moment. I'm going to come to the chat in a minute. So put any questions in the chat. So then we've got a lot of people on the alternative media also just talking about very restrictive narratives. Now, us beautiful creative beings, Coco included, of all different species, things, we've all got the ability to create. And we've spoken about this a lot, and we've spoken about it with Bryce, about this black and white thinking, Chantelle. And, you know, every time you're being told that the only options are A or B, the universe doesn't work like that. There's an infinite number of options for us to pick on. So why are all the alternative media trying to push this? Yes, the banking system's got to crash for us to change everything, because there are other options of doing it. And I'm not sure that people that are desperately geeing on and hollowing for, yes, let the banks crash, understand the implications of what they're going to do across the globe of access to food, water, health, medicine. And with medicine, I'm talking about alternatives as well as, you know, traditional Western. So what are your thoughts on that, about how these net techniques could be used to be asking us to really, you know, they're programming the alternative media as well to start creating what they actually want?
Well, I think it's absolutely right. I think, unfortunately, I think a large percentage of people are still in, and I hate using this word, but I'm using inverted commas, sheeple mode, right? A lot of people are waking up. A lot of people are reading things for the first time. They're hearing things for the first time. A lot of people are confused. They're chaotic. They don't quite know which direction to go. Don't know who to believe. Been fooled so many times, right? So lots of confusion. Who do I believe? What religion? You know, who's right? It's just a crazy time. And it really is that time where we have to stand still. We have to reroute. When the roots grow deep, there's no need to fear the wind. We have to reroute and connect and practice discernment, because, as you say, it's not very clever to think about the banks crashing. Well, where the F is your money? How are you going to do this? Do you think suddenly your especially now, your landlord is going to not want his money from you anymore or whatever? I can't imagine how it will work. But it's going to be chaos. So a transitional bridge is always the answer. So we have to be logical. There's nothing airy-fairy about what we're saying. I'm a logical, practical thinker. I'm very airy-fairy too. So I like to bring my airy-fairy ideas into my logical, practical way of thinking. So how am I going to marry that with this? Oh, okay, like that. Boom. Okay, that's how we do it. So we have to think bridge. What's the bridge that's going to get us there? Is it Bitcoin? Let's go and research Bitcoin, shall we? and see if they're credible. Is it whatever? Is it, I mean, I'm not an expert in the financial market at all, but there are people who are. So this is where we get with our communities, the experts in our communities or in the fields that you think is credible. Speak to them. How do we do this? How does the people get involved? How do the community get involved? You see, the danger comes in when there's a single party leader or a single leader that makes these decisions for all the people. But we have allowed it, Catherine. We've allowed it, and we can never say, well, they just, nye, nye, nye. We've sat back and allowed the shit to go down for how many years? And now we're complaining when they've taken the power that we've given them. They didn't steal something that we weren't giving. Can't happen that way. It's against the laws of nature. You can't give, no one can take something from you that you are not either giving willingly or unconsciously. You either might have a puncture in your tire somewhere, you might not know it, but hey, it's leaking out somewhere, and your environment is telling you something's wrong, but you just not catching on to what it is yet, right? So the bottom line is we've got to be clever, we've got to be smart, we've got to sit and talk to each other, we've got to start communicating about how do we then start disempowering the banking system? How do we start taking our money and our assets back? How do we start doing something that is more, and I'm not the expert there, so I don't have the answers, but I know that there are people who do. So we've got to become a lot more logical and practical and marry and infuse the spirituality of doing things differently to the way it's being done, because that is sure as hell not work. So we've got to find more decent, we're always going to need good leaders. So who are the good leaders? Make them accountable. We've all got to be accountable. We can't have our leaders be accountable and not us. So we've got to be accountable on some level as well. How are we all accountable at this point in time? We all live here. We're all intelligent adults having these conversations. How do we all become accountable? So it's not just expecting the people up there to do it anymore and assuming they've got our best interests at heart, because now we can see they never, ever have had our best interests at heart. So we've got to be responsible for the part we've played in giving away our money. That's
brilliant. I'm going to go through a few of the questions, and don't worry, Valerie, we're going to come back to you. It's just that there's a couple here from Jane and Amanda that link directly to what we've just been talking about. So, Jane, about what do you think about bartering and using silver maybe? So my thoughts on that is bartering, there's no downsides to, in terms of me. It's in community, it overruns any problem. And, you know, this is the beauty of most communities. Everyone's got different skills. And then when we value those and swap those with each other, fantastic. Silver, absolutely. The thing I would say, and it links on to Amanda's comment before, and bear in mind, I am not a financial advisor and I do not have the answers, but I'm just going to give my 2 pennies worth. So looking at using silver and changing all the stuff into the wealth and gold and silver, yes, physical currencies are absolutely great. But all of it is only as good as the circumstances you're in. It's like having your house valued. Your house can be valued for anything, but if no one's going to buy it at that price. So the thing is with gold and silver, which is much better probably than having your money in the bank. However, the gold and silver is only worth if someone will take it for you to swap for the essentials that you need to keep living, if that makes sense. And when you've got gold and silver, if it's been stored anywhere else, you haven't physically got it in your hands, then there's been loads of cases where people, you know, they oversell the gold and silver just like they do plane flights and everything else in the world. So what are your comments about these 2 comments, about Jane's comment here about bartering of gold and silver, and Amanda's about changing everything over?
I'm a great lover of bartering, and I think it's essential that more and more of us start bartering. And I think it's already started happening, such as growing veggies, growing fruits, baking, canning, bottling, whatever, you know, whatever your skills are, sewing, cooking, you know, anything, whatever your skills are. And it's important that somebody step up and then start bringing these communities together, the people in the community. And like I know somewhere, like people I know live in this community. On a certain day, there was about 6 families that began it. One would bring meat, the other one would bring bread, and they would meet at a certain person's home and they would trade. And this grew and grew and grew. And this has now become something very viable for them. That's what, it is. So I think bartering, but as long as the community is involved, that's a very good thing. Because if you want to barter a house to rent, and as long as the banks and things are involved, we're not going to be able to barter, right? We've got to be realistic about that. But I think it's good to start, because let's look again at the 100 monkey syndrome. As something begins, so it gains momentum all over the world. And the more we start doing this and doing things ethically, I think what we really have to be aware of is ethics. Because if you look at, for example, the cannabis trade now, right? In the past, it was always a trade for the man on the street. The guys on the street were selling cannabis to survive. That was the man's herb. Now, but of course, people had atrocious jail sentences when they got caught with a joint or something, right? I mean, now, the minute the government decided it's legal, look at people like Marlboro, all these huge companies now grabbing control of the cannabis trade, for example. You see, we've got to be very careful of that too, because now ethics go out the window. This is not something
quality and what's actually in them goes out the window.
Intention and energy. You see, we have got to be very conscious of that. Energy is in everything. And that's why I say, when people eat meat, be aware where your animal came from. That animal took hormones. It took steroids. It took growth, whatever it is, right? It ate whatever is in the flesh of that animal is what it consumed in its life. And the trauma it experienced is also consumed in the flesh. Energy can never be created or destroyed, only ever transferred or transformed, right? Let's think about that piece of meat. It's solid energy. You're consuming exactly what's in that meat. And then you wonder why your energy goes down. Maybe you start getting sick, you're having nightmares. I don't know. You got to think about what it is. We've got to be aware of these things. We've got to be aware that if we want to live a I don't even know what the word is, but a cleaner life, healthier life. When we're moving into 4D positive, we have to understand these things matter. You've got to do enough shadow work within yourself to be able to understand that certain things are just not even done in the lighter vibration. So it's up to us. We've got to get to that point. And that's why I say, I like the fact that we can barter. I like the fact that there's lots of that. When it comes to gold and silver, I want to think energy. As long as we are using Earth's minerals to enrich ourselves, not cool. You're digging up the earth to get her minerals so that you can have wealth. Think about that. I'm not judging. I'm just pointing out. You see, these are the things we have to think about. So now that everything else is gone, what suddenly now all the gold in the world is going to be dug up at record speed, and silver too. We have to understand people mine these commodities. It's a commodity that is abused a lot. So think about the energy that goes in there. Think about the livelihoods. Think about the land from which it's been taken out of. It's not just a piece of silver. You got to think about where it came from. That's what evolution is about. It's an evolved way of thinking. That you choose not to support certain things.
Yeah.
Because of it. So that's my point. I mean, I just think bartering is great, but we've got to all be on board, and we've got to really make it happen for ourselves. And I think when it comes to the financial trade, yes, we've got to go through the process. Same with education, socializing our kids, all of that. We've just got to get more balance, And then, as I said, when it comes to gold and silver, I'm not a fan at all. I refuse to wear gold. Most definitely, not at all. I wouldn't go for it. But I do also say that maybe that is part of the way, Catherine, that gets us out of this monetary system. So it's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with all of these, everyone watching is in a very different position about what they've got and what they haven't. And, so it's very unique. And I think the best thing is do what you can and not worry about it too much. But I'm very suspicious anytime, call me a conspiracy theorist, but I'm very suspicious anytime any group of people are just pushing one singular option, because for me, the universe doesn't work like that. Nature gives loads of different options. And if you're being really cornered into one specific area, then it's worth really tuning in. As we said, we said at all, above, Carol said above, really tune in and say, hang on a minute, am I being coerced into something here? Valerie, may I ask for a message from Spirit Guide for my future stability? Experience a loss of losses. That. Very, very sorry to hear that you've had a lot of losses. I hope things really get better for you. So another area I wanted to talk about, I love that. Exactly. Most people are doing the best they can in a world that's evolving. Now, another area I wanted to talk about, which is probably quite controversial, to say the least, is I'm seeing a lot when people go on a spiritual path, Chantelle and everyone in the audience, a lot of people we get told to go within and look after ourselves. And I saw a very interesting thing on actually X, I keep nearly calling it Twitter, about how we're almost being encouraged to actually really go within at the expense of community. So let me explain it a little bit more about balance. So sometimes there can be, sorry, every time Coco sits on my notes, I have to move her off. I'm sorry, Coco. So when people talk about going within, there's always a balance about, but not at the expense of everything else.
Right.
So that can be too much of a good thing. And again, I'm looking at the narratives when people, it's like the self-love thing. Self-love is absolutely crucial, right, but it can also go too far. And there's a lot of the teachings now that personally I'm perceiving as actually pushing people to be very insular, very selfish, not feel part or look after community, family, whatever that might be. And again, I would question that, because from what I see, that's never a good thing. No species can survive in isolation. And if you're just considering yourself and not the impact on the greater good, then there's an energetic imbalance there. What are your thoughts on that, Chanti and everyone?
Yeah, I fully agree with you. Yes, to heal simply means to find balance again. We are not broken. We are not shattered, although it can absolutely feel that way, right? There is no such thing as separation. We are all one. It might feel like we're in shards right now, but the bottom line is, we are, the minute we find our balance, think 4 legs of the table, right? And if you're at a restaurant and one of the legs is a bit wobbly, think how irritating that is. Now, that's what you go through internally on an energetic level when you are not in balance, and that creates illness and all sorts of things in the body. So the 4 legs would be spirit, emotion, mental, physical. So if your spirit is connected and in tune and aligned with God or source, you're going to be receiving that information through the top of your head like a beautiful waterfall every day. That's gonna that's going to be the inspiration, not motivation. Motivation is something that happens from external. Motivation is someone that gives you a kick up the bum, and 3 days later, you're feeling flat again. Okay. Inspiration is coming from your soul, your spirit. So when you're aligned with your creator, you then get that idea. And as you have that idea, every cell in your body sparks up and you go, oh, yes, there's my answer. And you immediately get up and you act. It's not even a choice. It's not even a thing, oh, well, I'm watching Netflix and chilling now for the next 3 hours. I'll do it later. No, it's like you understand spirit speaks. And in the moment spirit speaks, you get that inspiration, you act. You see, that's when you start creating magically, or that's when you start manifesting from God's will or source's will, right? But if you are imbalanced and you're always going to be sick, tired, frustrated, bad relationships. And I'm not saying that when you are in balance, you don't ever have that. Of course you do, with human beings. It's how we move with that. But we have to do the inner work. We've got to do some reflection. We've got to see where our mental roadblocks are, where our emotional roadblocks are, where our physical roadblocks are. We can't just go bulldozing our way through it and like a rock cliff and then scream like a baby when we can't go through that, because that's our job, to find our way through it or around it, whatever the case might be, right? Like anything. So when we are being blocked time and time again with negative situations, whether it's your health, whether it's constant betrayals, or I don't know, whatever it is that's personal in your life, you need to sit down. And because I always say the standing still is sometimes the best move you're ever going to make. So stand still, sit down, be still, and know that I am God. That's my favorite Bible verse. And just sit with your creator or your divine inspirer, God, source, whatever you choose to call it, and allow yourself to be filled with truth. Because when you're in your truth, you're going to get your answers. And that's what releases pain, sadness, disease in the body. Your disease just dissolves in a heartbeat. I'm telling you. When we start doing things this way, illnesses and ailments dissolve. They like go away when you do it like this. It's like all illness is an imbalance of energy, right? Your body is designed to heal itself. So you could get that imbalance through negative thinking, negative feeling, destructive relationships, bad eating, whatever. But if you're in the place of being conscious that this can change, I promise you it will change. Your body is designed to heal itself, but you have to believe it. That's why Jesus was such a perfect healer, because he understood two things. He only ever saw people in their full healed space, and the people who he was healing truly believed that they would receive healing. So that's the key, that you believe you can receive the healing, right? And that you actually act on the healing, if that makes sense at all. That's what we have to do now. We can't just lay back and expect someone. And that's why I say, when we talk about religion and stuff, Catherine, and I know I'm always on tentative foots there, this is what I talk about when Jesus said, Jesus is not coming to save you. Jesus showed you how to save yourself. So when we apply the teachings of the Christ, that's when we automatically are in the right place at the right time, avoid danger automatically. We don't even know it's occurring behind us. We are now on a path of creation rather than destruction. And that's really what it is for me.
It's a whole different discussion, I think, on religion, because I mean, there are behind the teaching of Christ. I mean, I agree with you completely, but my always question on that, genuine question, not even a argument one, is but how do we know the teachings of Christ? Because the Bible and the teachings and the scripts are so corrupted. We don't, But I really like this from Valerie, because I think that's a really good question. And I'm sure we've both got different tools and techniques that we can share with you for this, Valerie, about how do we know that this message of inspiration and not the monkey brain? Great question, Valerie.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, go for it, and then I'll give my bit.
Well, it's monkey brain or monkey mind, as I call it, is when your mind is very busy. You generally have like a feeling of anxiety when you're so thinking, you're running around. There's generally a feeling of a subtle anxiety that comes from the mind. Your mind can't stop thinking. You haven't been able to find the switch that goes boom. However, when you find the switch and when you practice, for example, whether you call it meditation or contemplation, right? To sit quietly, and your breath is going to help you, and you quiet your mind. You see, the monkey stop talking and the monkey stop jabbering away. Then as you go deeper into your core, and let's say you've had an answer or you've had a question about something before your meditation, and suddenly out of nowhere, it's as if out of nowhere, your heart space, you receive the answer. And suddenly it's like, bing, gold dust flies all over, or your mind, you have that aha, that unmistakable aha moment where your cells respond, your mind responds, your face can't help but smile. You just know. That comes with practice, though, because a lot of people get confused between imagining it with a monkey mind and feeling it. That's what I'm saying. With a monkey mind, it's like a half. You might get a good feeling or a good thought, but it's not quite there. It's half there. You're doubting. You're not quite sure. You still don't know where to go. But when you have that moment of truth and kaboom, you go, oh, yes, there I got to go. That's where I have to go there tomorrow. I've got to go to Joburg and not Cape Town. I'm going. Nothing, you have no doubt anymore. That's what I'm saying. Then you know your soul is spoken because it comes from within, inspiration. Not motivation. That's someone else's idea of what you should be doing. And I'm not saying that's bad because we take cues from people all the time. But if that resonates with you, take heed, but apply that to yourself personally and in your own life. So what is your soul asking for? Not my soul, who has a lot to say about a lot of things. Don't worry about me. If my words then resonate with something in you, go and find that in yourself and see what it is for you on a personal level. Not my idea of what something should be.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I pointed it to Coco towards Valerie, because Coco's going to help explain why. So I love the fact, for me, Valerie, about how I've learned to distinguish what's the monkey mind, what's inspiration, is because I do a lot of work. Actually, I don't really talk about it much, but a lot of my work, isn't it, Coco?
Oh, my gosh. Look at that beautiful cat.
She's so magnificent, and she always joins in our conversations. But unfortunately, she treads on my computer as well, because you don't take no for the answer, do you? But so Valerie, one thing which has helped me immensely with my understanding monkey mind inspiration is the animal communication work I do. Now, when you really get into animal communication, which is it really helps you with humans as well, is what happens is, just as Chantelle was saying, you practice and you learn the tools and techniques that work for you about getting to that quiet space. And I personally do, I'm thinking of teaching this again to people, because I used to and I loved it, doing the body scan, which includes your mind. So you can first and foremost understand what's yours, what you're carrying and what you're holding on to at the moment. Now, what happens for me is, once you practice getting into that space of understanding what's yours and what's external to you, the distinguishing factor for me is, when it's your monkey mind, you can feel your mind's busy, the backwards and forwards of questioning. So your mind's busy, and then you get to an answer. And normally then that's coming from your monkey mind, not the inspiration. The difference is, when it's coming from inspiration, your mind's quite calm, something comes into it. So the thought comes from a quiet place, or the feeling, and it will come in different places in our body for each of us. And then once that's come, then the monkey mind might kick in afterwards. So it's a reverse order, if that makes sense.
Right.
So
I'm going to try and tell you to stop thinking such nonsense.
Yeah. Absolutely. So one, the monkey mind's in there first and leading the direction, and the other one, the monkey mind can come in afterwards. And the more practice you do, the more the monkey mind doesn't come in afterwards. So it's really great to practice these things and find what works for you. And that's why so many people that do different healing modalities where they help people with animal communication, sound therapy, light therapy, like Stephen's talking about there. You know, all of these things, we've all got our different access points in, so to speak. So, for example, I'd actually do a lot of light therapy work with animals as well. And I was out with a horse this week. And when you're really focused with just light vibration or sound vibration, then basically you're tuning into those frequencies and the inspiration just comes. It's just incredible. So I hope that helps a bit, Valerie. So coming back to Carol was talking about something quite interesting about people judging too much. And then I asked Carol, thank you for sharing, to share her experiences. And while Chanti's talking about this, my answer is
okay.
It's favorite books here. So Carol's talking about people judging too much, which absolutely I agree with you, Carol. And it's a complex one because it's so, you know, it goes round in a circle, I think we're going to find. So I said, Chanti, Carol, can you expand a little bit on that? Because it's an interesting discussion point. And I think it fits in also to the be careful what you wish for subject matter of today. So Carol said, from her perspective, I'm reading it out, Carol, because people listen to this on audio as well. Lots, from my perspective, people only meet you from their perspective. And in my experience, a lot of projections have been placed on me and it's not my intention. So any words of wisdom for Carol there, Chanti?
Well, Carol, you know, the bottom line is that, and it might sound a little bit cold and callous, but it's not. If you are having tons of people projecting onto you, I would say it all comes back to me, because remember, I'm the common denominator in my life. So you would only be attracting things that you are yourself projecting. So the question is, what are they projecting onto you? Everyone projects all the time. I like to project good things onto people, and I don't always say I get it right. No, I'm not gonna lie, but it's generally to let's think about what a good projection is. Complimenting them in a genuine way, offering to help when they need help. Anything like that. Just a kindness. That would be a good projection. Or, and that's a projection. There's a difference between a judgment and a projection. We've got to understand that. So someone might be projecting their judgment onto you, right? But the only reason they're projecting a judgment onto you, because if they're projecting it onto you, it's coming to you. You're the common denominator. And my question to you would be, where are you judging you? Where are you condemning yourself in your thoughts, your actions, your ideas? And that's where the quietude needs to start. That's where, because then you're going to see how your monkey mind has been creating this chaos, telling yourself bad things about yourself. And the one thing that never lies is energy. So zhoosh, all of that is projected. Your thoughts, your ideas, your feelings are projected from within you into your environment, into your aura, right? And when you now are in the vicinity or whatever, it doesn't even have to be in, like, obviously physical vicinity, it could be across the world. Energy knows no distance. You will therefore, because energy always attracts the same vibration, right? So you're therefore going to be attracting people who are judging you. Doesn't have to be for one thing, could be for 10 things. But the underlying issue would be judgment. And that's the thing you want to take back in healing yourself. Because you are clearly judging, criticizing, condemning, deceiving yourself. If you are experiencing that in a bad way. And that I don't mean in a bad way, guys. I'm not saying, we all do it. All I'm saying is when you start seeing things in this light, it changes your world. Because you realize you have the power to change your entire existence. You can't change anyone else, but through changing what is in here and the way you perceive the world changes your vibration, and then you raise your frequency.
Yeah, and I think I really empathise with you there, Carol, because I see this a lot. Even when you see, like, I can watch some really lovely, Joe Dispenza interview, and some of the comments underneath it are just so unbelievable. Projection, judgments, and things like. Everyone always assumes they know where other people are coming from, and for me, I know Chanti and I have covered this lots. This is the fifth agreement book, which has got the 4 agreements in plus the 5th one. And I'd like to do it again, because every time I'm in that place, Carol, I go back to here. And the second agreement is don't take anything personally, nothing others, which can appear to conflict a little bit with what Chanti said, but it doesn't actually when you read them all in order. Don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their dream. When you're immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. So
Exactly.
I don't know if you've got this, the 4 agreements or the 5th agreement, Carol, but it's so simple. And I've at a stage now where I can laugh about myself, because if I feel that someone's really judging me, it comes back to when you're immune to the feelings of others. Because when you see people that have really done so much self-work, and I'm not very, I'm not pretending I'm there, because I'm not, because sometimes I do feel like, oh, that's not fair, they're judging me, particularly when it's one of my sisters. But in all seriousness, when you sort of feel like that, it's very much about the fact that we haven't found, as Chanti was saying, peace within ourselves. Because when you truly do, like Chanti was saying earlier, like see the world like Jesus did, apparently, you only see the good in people, you see their potential, then you don't take that judgment personally, even if it is being projected at you, because you see where it's coming from and it just washes off you, and you can just react to it in a very non-reactive way. You're not taking it on board, you're not taking it personally, you're not putting that defensive barrier up. You just understand that, oh, that's where their level of understanding is at the moment. That's okay. Right. You're not judging them back for them not understanding you. So it is quite complex, but I think for me, that is the beauty. These books are just phenomenal. If you need a little bit of a helping hand, that we all do, having some of these tools in your toolkit can just be magical.
True.
Yeah. So what else comes to mind for you, Chanti, or anyone else in the chat? Sort of final questions. What sort of comes to you, Chanti, when we're thinking about be careful what you wish for? Is there anything else that you're seeing being put out in more our sort of community, the more alternative media community, or otherwise, that you're thinking could be a little bit of a red flag?
Well, it's not even just so much on the community around here. If I just look at the internet as a whole and what I'm seeing, and obviously, for me, what is concerning is the amount of people that are fast asleep to what's going on, because I think it's going to be a big wake-up call for people if they've chosen to ignore the red flags and think it's a carnival and go for a party there. That's what I'm saying, But on the other hand, Catherine, there's so many young people that are doing good things. When you look at Gen Z, that's more like what I'm talking about. Every day I go, you got to be joking. But then every now and again, you find a youngster who's really doing cool things. So I think for me, I've always wondered and worried a little bit about that, where we're going and the next step, blah, blah, blah. But I think at this stage, it's not about wishing and I wish I had that. Let's get together and let's create through our actions and kindness a new experience, whether it's a new emotion for yourself, a new experience for your family. You can leave your partner if they're abusive and start again, whatever. I'm saying, take that step forward. You can't wish for something and expect it to come to you without you doing at least 50% of the job. And the more you do that, the more momentum it gathers that your wishes do come true. And that wishes do come true is not something you've got to go and do a ritual or a sacrifice for. It's merely you putting yourself in alignment with God's light. And then it finds you. You don't have to look for a thing. It's like you magnetize things to yourself. At the right time, the right person regarding your new project just happens to pop into your office, stuff like that. Your sister who you've had conflict with for so long suddenly calls you and says, listen, Carl, let's talk. That sort of stuff. Things have a way of resolving themselves when you've chosen peace. When you choose peace with yourself, those around you will be peaceful, and you will attract to yourself exactly what you need. And it's not coming from you forcing it to happen. It occurs of itself because you've understood the natural laws of the universe.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the other thing I say when you're talking about what are we seeing more widely on social media, there's a lot of, well, how does it affect you personally sort of attitude, and if it doesn't affect you personally, don't worry about it. And for me, I think there's a danger in that. There's a difference between sitting there worrying about things that you can't do anything about, not a good idea, not a good use of your energy and your emotions. But actually, a lot of these things that are sort of changing in the world at large around here, even if they don't affect you at the moment, they will at time. And if we don't care about them being implemented
exactly
in my backyard. So it springs to mind, I had a lovely discussion a couple of weeks back with Dane Wigington about geoengineering. And he said exactly that, is that it's all too easy to not take action, to not speak up until it affects you. But the trouble is by the time often it gets to affect you, it can be too late to do anything about it. And I did, the other thing I would say is I did a show, I think it was yesterday. Yes, it was yesterday, with the lovely Kim Damigard, Ole Damigard's wife. And she's amazing. And we did a good news only show. And so what I would say is it's amazing when you start looking, like you were saying, with some of the younger generation and all people, it's amazing when you start looking for it, how many incredible things are going on in the world at the moment on a local level, on a global level. So I would do this on a regular occurrence. Please do go and look at Chanti as one's on her channel for the symptoms decode, because that's really worth watching. And please do go and look at my Good News Only show with Kim. You'll see there's quite a good looking one about, we did some good news and we threw in a few fake good ones in there. But there's an awful lot of good stuff going on. And if we can encompass all these brilliant, creative people from all over the globe that are coming up with amazing solutions, I don't think personally we need to be cheering on the breakdown of the old, because that's a bit like the fighting cancer energy. I think
yes,
on
it's a transition
open to us. Let's just open it up and fly with them. There's the old saying, Coco, it used to be, there's lots of ways to skin a cat, but we won't say that, will we? No, not with you. Thank you very much for everyone for joining us. I just want to finish off by putting Stephen's comment on screen, which was about the judgment discussion. But I love that, Stephen. Light contains the perfect frequencies to help you process and dissolve lower emotions. And also about taking an eagle eye view to see the bigger picture, recognize the lessons and respond with wisdom. So here, Steve, really great advice. Thank you so much, Chantelle. Love it. And special thank you to all of you that have joined us today. We really love having you on board. And if people are watching this on playback, please do put any areas that you want Chanti and I to discuss. You know, we love having your ideas about what you'd like to see with these sort of coffee chat discussions.
Please do.
And please do share. We really do love it when you share our work, because unfortunately the way the algorithms work, that if people don't like and share, it doesn't get shown to people subscribed on your channel. So you know, it really does do us a big favor. Thank you.
Yeah, it takes you 3 seconds, and it means a lot to us, because, you know, obviously our algorithms depend on you guys and how much you enjoy putting what we put out there, and how many other people get the opportunity. And, you know, you never know, there might be one person who gets to hear of this simply by seeing something on your timeline, and it could change their world too. This is how we all walk each other home, you know. So if you found this talk beneficial at all, please share. Thank you. And thank you, everybody. It's been wonderful being here again.
Thank you. And we will be back next week, hopefully, on Chantelle's Solution with Aquarius Rising. So we'll see you all then. Thank you so much.
God bless. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.